Well, hey there, little man. You're not gonna you're not gonna break vintage too, are you? Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU, here for another vintage video. And today we're going to be playing with some of the most powerful spells that are castable in Magic the Gathering, even if we only get to play one of them because they are restricted. Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth is making some major changes to a lot of formats, and this includes Vintage. If Vintage is the format where you get to play with the best card draw possible, it's also going to be the format where hate against that stuff is going to be at its absolute strongest. Now, conveniently for us, it's also the format where we have the best draw sevens available. By legacy standards, we're used to having to do something kind of clunky, like Wheel of Misfortunes or Echo of Eons, where there's a major downside associated with casting those things. But in Vintage, you get to play a couple of copies of very, very strong wheel effects. And guess what? One of our favorite mono black friends is also going to find a home in Vintage. And I'm not talking about Orcish Bowmasters. I am talking about Sheoldred the Apocalypse. We are going to play both not Orcish Lumberjack, wrong orc. We're going to play Orcish Bowmasters and Sheoldred the Apocalypse alongside the best card draw spells ever printed in Magic the Gathering. And we're also going to have room in the deck list to do some other cute things as well. Because in Vintage, you get to do things like Tinker and Time Vault that are incredibly broken. So our deck is going to be attacking from a couple of different angles, many of which are kind of an A plus B combo that has just synergy or overlap with the rest of the format in some way. Let's go ahead and take a look at today's deck list. Now, today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com as well as Cool Stuff Inc. And remember, if you want to buy any of these cards, Cool Stuff Inc., promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order. So, we're sort of a Grixis control / Grixis combo deck list, where plan A is definitely this Orcish Bowmasters / Sheoldred the Apocalypse plus Wheels plan. But those wheels can also combo with Hullbreacher or Narset Parter of Veils to turn them into one-sided card draws. Note, there is a little bit of negative synergy here, right? So let's consider if we have Hullbreacher and Orcish Bowmasters in play, right? If your opponent would draw a card except for the first one they draw in their draw steps, instead you get a treasure token. So if you control both Hullbreacher and Orcish Bowmasters, you don't get to go ham making your orcs. But if you draw 7 and your opponent doesn't and you get 7 mana, like, you probably are good and you maybe don't care about the orcs at that point. This deck is also capable of taking infinite turns by untapping a Time Vault with a Manifold key. And we can also just tinker for Bolas's Citadel, which usually will lead to a win as well. Notably here in the sideboard, we have some other very spicy tinker targets, the ability to make our opponent sacrifice 3 creatures and then reanimate stuff every turn, or Sphinx of the Steel Wind for when we just need some raw life gain to stabilize. I don't get to play Vintage often on the channel here, so thank you very much to Drake for giving me a dealer's choice donation deck list for this format. I suppose last thing that I want to say here, the One Ring is probably also pretty good in Vintage. So this card is making waves in other formats where you have to pay for it in a fair way, just as sort of a card draw engine / super fog effect. But there might be a pretty decent land that might allow you to cast it ahead of schedule in Vintage. So we're going to be watching out for that today, and just this is something that we're going to need to have on our radar. With that said, let's battle. Okay, looking at my opening hand here, this is a little weird. This represents a key for infinite turns with Time Vault. I don't really have interaction. I don't love that Bolas's Citadel is in my hand, but I think I'm willing to keep this one. Is it strange? Very. All right, here we go. Let's play some Broken Magic. All right. Opponent's coming out of the gates strong. We dodged a turn 1 Tinker, which is nice. Let's just go ahead and get probe and see what's going on over there. Oh, the One Ring, and they can have an end of turn thirst for knowledge. Yeah, we're still just going to be leading on Urza's Saga here, I think. And there's the end of turn thirst that we were expecting. Discarding the One Ring. They may just have another, that's something to keep in mind here. And they've got a 50% chance of taking some damage at each one of their upkeeps. Not this time, though. Alright, good stuff. So, Amp Tutor. That's interesting. I don't think I am innately interested in casting that just right now. I think I'm going to go for just Naked Time Vault here. If it works, cool. I have a potential win the following turn. If this gets countered, no big deal. And just like Vamp Tutor for Lotus and do something cool. Or get Lotus off Urza Saga, honestly. Are we resolving? Ooh, maybe not. Man. Didn't play. That's slightly scary. Be a Tinker for Bolas's Citadel, for example. My turn 3 win may not be fast enough. Alright, my opponent took like 5 minutes to make that decision. See if they take some damage off their Mana Crypt. And they did lose the flip there. Okay, there's the Tinker. Okay, it's just a Lotus. I mean, just a Lotus, right? Like, still obviously a problem, but it's not something that innately kills me on its own. Yogg's will probably will. Because they get to Lotus and Tinker again. Alright, so there's a secondary Tinker. Finding Bolas's Citadel. And so now my opponent still can cast a few more things from the graveyard, as well as play lands and cast spells from the top of their library, losing life instead of paying mana. So there goes the Lotus. And they can kind of set some cards on top of their library to play with Bolas's Citadel here. Note that they do actually have to present a kill this turn, as I do just have infinite turns on my following turn. Alright, there is a One Ring, making its first appearance on this channel, I believe, depending on when exactly I release this video. Alright, there is a Tendrils with a storm count of 9 that... Okay, my Magic Online crashed, I'm back. I get 50 seconds to sideboard. This counters an artifact. This is fine. Needle for the One Ring is probably fine. Opposition Agent is actively good. I have some other counter spells that I can think about as well. What don't I want? I don't know that this is necessary. Repeal can probably go. I have Pithing Needle in the main deck already. Bam. 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 Need this. Cut 1 Bowmasters because I have 3 seconds. Yeah, this is fine. Not the best time walk in the world, as it's literally just a redraw, but I'm hoping that I can put a Hullbreacher into play on effectively turn 1, and then follow it up with a Timetwister with Force of Will backup. Alright, here we go. Alright, in play. Black seems more important than red. And we'll just go ahead and Naked Time Walk here. I did not hit the next land drop, unfortunately. Yeah, that's fine. Well, that'll get me there. I'm just not happy about it. I maybe also just like Vamp Tutor for Ancestral and assume that that gets me out of the current situation as well. I am going to do this now so that I can potentially make a land drop, but it means my opponent's counterspells are better. That is a Flusterstorm. It's annoying because I can't 1-for-1 that. I could pay and then force, but I don't know that that is actually worth doing. I'll keep my own counter spells to stop the broken things that my opponent will end up doing rather than just protect my own Ancestral. Yeah, and I'll just Hullbreacher end of my opponent's turn. Okay, we can Hullbreacher now. That's fine. Cool. So I get 3 treasures. My opponent can discard 2 cards or discard an artifact card. They have discarded Bolas's Citadel. I have Hardcast Force of Negation available. I also have Timetwister to clear out the remainder of their hand. Oh my god, we get to do it. So crash in for 3. My opponent goes to 17. I'll go ahead and flash in Orcish Bowmasters here. I just let that resolve in case I have a force. So I can still Timetwister with force available. Probably. Alright, so let's Timetwister. My opponent now has no hand. I am fine. Get probing for some life here. I believe I am okay using one of these to ponder a Wheel of Fortune. Valerian Academy is pretty busted as well. I don't really have a lot to do with it right now. Let's just wheel. I'm going to go ahead and drop an Urza Saga into play, which will be real good as a finisher, and I'll just hope to wheel into a better hand here, which I have. Go ahead and cast a Lotus, which I will just immediately use to cast a Sheoldred. I guess we can put this into play, and I have Hardcast Force of Negation available for whatever my opponent draws. This is very disgusting. Yeah, that's fair. This is what I came here to do. Okay, I can think a little bit more about my sideboarding now. I don't know that Sensei's Divining Top is necessary. I think I'm going to get that other Bowmasters back in there for that. And then I'm thinking about the Mindbreak Trap. I could board out my Misstep. Misstep is nice for Ancestral in particular, but I'm going to miss a lot of my opponent's key cards. I think I'm going to play a Mindbreak Trap when I'm on the draw. I have a lot of broken cards in my hand, but I don't actually have the ability to cast them, unfortunately, so this one is an automatic mulligan. This has a Mox Jet, so I can play Mox Jet, Vamp Tutor, get Lotus, cast Timetwister, but I don't know that this is better than just going to 5 and keeping something that can actually cast some spells. I'm not the happiest with this. This is just turn 3 infinite turns with a Force of Will backup. So, like, that's fine. But I don't believe that that was good enough to win game 1, right? We're also just down 2 cards to start with. Alright, my opponent has a Gitaxian Probe, so they get to see what's up. It's unfortunate, because now they can sculpt a plan around. Wow, okay. That was probably the worst draw in my deck. I don't know why they kept their hand. Like, it may become obvious this turn, but Mox Pearl Pass is not something that I am excited about keeping by vintage standards. Alright, we've got some movement in my upkeep here. I see. So that's the plan. If my opponent has a Force of Will in hand and they counter this Time Vault, I'm basically just out of this game. But this could be their way to dig for that, or their way to just win the game on their own. I am going to Force of Will this. I'm not sure that this is correct. Kind of think that they have Force of Negation because they waited to do this until my turn. Okay, they are firing off a Force of Will, pitching a Mystical Tutor. They are going to need something else to, like, stop my Time Vault. That's kind of an inconvenient land drop. I mean, I'm going to put them to the test, right? So you used your Force of Will already, and you're... Okay, they also do have Force of Negation. That's fine. Like, I've got to go for it here. Alright, let's see what's happening. There's a Yogg's Will. So they just get another Ancestral and a Git Probe. I mean, but that's pretty strong. Alright, there's the Git Probe. My opponent is going to time themselves out. Alright, so we are probably just going to hardcast a Bolas's Citadel here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Alright, so it has to be Lotus. It can't be Soul Ring. Don't get to do this with Flusterstorm backup. Alright, Bolas's Citadel. Seeing my opponent use a Force of Will, Force of Negation, pitch another Force of Will. It's pretty unlikely that they have yet another, but, you know. Here we are. There's a Mox Ruby from my opponent, and they pass the turn. I've got an Orcish Bowmasters, which doesn't actually need to do that much damage to kill my opponent. I think I'm just going to wait on it until their end step. See if this does any good. My mana situation is awkward enough that I don't think I wait to try to do this with Flusterstorm backup. Alright, my opponent mana drained my Orcish Bowmasters. So I'm going to go ahead and Brainstorm, I think. Then I can get a shuffle off this Urza Saga at the very least. Timeout win is looking likely. Sure. Load a mana here. I used Time Vault this game, right? I did. Pithing Needle the One Ring preemptively, but I think I just need mana. So that I can go and play something like a Hullbreacher that I draw. My opponent gets 2 bonus mana here. Alright, there's a hard cast Bolas's Citadel. I'm going to fast forward to end of turn here because I just imagine that this kills me. Yeah, so Sensei's Divining Top plus Bolas's Citadel should lead to a kill in some capacity because you can tap top to draw a card and then pay 1 life to draw the top. So I'm going to fast forward to a kill here. All right, with a storm count of 12, there is a Tendrils of Agony, meaning that we have lost this one. Yeah, I just had bad beats to mulligans there. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by moxfield.com, just the best place to keep your online deck lists, and the reason I say that is it just has so much functionality. So for example, let's take a look at some random legacy deck here. You can click on your various 2-drop slots and you can see what % chance you have of casting various things on curve, and you can get a breakdown of your mana symbols and all of that stuff, and there's a lot more here than just this. Consider checking it out. Alright, we're not doing a great job of having enough mana in my opening hands here. This is an auto mulligan. Saga, Crypt, Time Vault, Lotus Flusterstorm. This is a keep pitching Vampiric Tutor. I'm just kind of parsing how the rest of this goes. And like in what order I play my cards. I think it's Lotus, Merchant Scroll, Ancestral, target me. I will want to float a mana from Mana Crypt so that I can leave a blue mana for Flusterstorm, I guess. Am I committing to this land now? I don't know that I'm committing to this land now. Let's start here. Do Lotus, colorless, and a bunch of blue. Merchant Scroll, Ancestral, target me with Flusterstorm available. Orc Boys. Do I Orc Boys instead of Time Vault and Urza Saga? I don't know the format well enough to know the answer to that. I feel like I do. It feels like that's worth so much over time against a decent portion of the format, and my previous attempts at trying to win with Vault Key were just stopped. The Weebo Boys. Ping my opponent here. I now drop Flusterstorm, but I'll still have Force of Will available. Damn it. You're supposed to be playing a cantrip deck. Against a shops matchup specifically, like the Urza Saga Time Vault, just kill my opponent as quickly as possible plan is much better than Bowmasters, obviously. Although if my opponent's playing the One Ring, like they can draw cards. A Phyrexian Metamorph for their own copy of Orcish Bowmasters. No. I would like to draw more cards as this game goes on, so I think I just no sir that. Ooh. My opponent's got some extra stuff in play. If I take some damage to Mana Crypt, Tails never fails. Okay, sometimes it fails. Yes. Yes, I would like this very much. Thank you. Oh fuck, I'm supposed to do that pre-combat. I just missed a shit ton of damage. Alright, opponent's at 15. We'll say I was playing around something. To ping my opponent for a lot. But this is also amassing, so I just missed 7 points of damage. Hopefully that doesn't matter, but like it very much could. They're at 8 when that stack clears. I have an 8/8. And now I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to do. Like I can hold up, casting another Bowmasters. I can Ponder and Narset. Luster's not doing a lot. I can like Narset and Ponder looking for a Force of Will. I don't hate it. Repeal's not nothing, but I don't think I'm excited about this. Not excited about another Urza Saga. This 5 looks at a Force of Will here. A Tinker? I will take a Tinker. And we'll see if my opponent does something broken that beats my 8/8 in play. But my opponent could be at 1 from that attack, and then I could have Orcish Bowmasters to kill them. Like, I won anyway, but that was sloppy on my end. I do not know exactly which version of shops they are on, which changes some of my card evaluations a little bit. Basically, I always want these 3, and then what I do with some of the Tinker targets is a little dependent on whether I'm facing aggro shops or some other kind of shops. I don't usually want Misstep. I don't usually want Flusterstorm. Merchant Scroll is a lot less attractive against sphere effects. Bolas's Citadel can probably come out. Move this way to at least be thinking about that. So this gets these in. And then I'm thinking about these still. I'm playing at least one of those based on the look of things so far. I guess there's also Force of Negation. That is like perfectly reasonable. Again, doesn't stop everything, but especially on the draw is some good utility. I'm still thinking about these cards, but given the information that I have and my current level of familiarity with where Vintage Shops is at, I'm going to call this good and not try to oversideboard. This has all sorts of cards that I would love to see in the matchup, but no fundamental mana. I will be mulliganing this. Alright, so we will mulligan that. Second hand is quite strong. Tolarian Academy is a busted card. I don't know that it is right for the texture of this hand, especially since I'm probably tinkering away my 1 artifact that I do have. I think I am comfortable throwing that back for consistency rather than raw power. Top is fine. Ooh. Okay. So I have the capability to brainstorm and fetch. Or no, I don't. This is a jet. So I think my line is play jet. Go ahead and grab an Underground Sea. Cast a Demonic Tutor. I believe that I am just going to find a Force of Will to stop whatever it is my opponent will cast on their next turn. And then I'll just attempt to resolve Tinker. If my opponent like Wastelands me or something like that, I have things that stop that. Extra mana is fine. That's it. Cool. An Urza Saga of my own. I don't know if I'm interested in playing that yet. I think if this doesn't work, I'm going to try to play like fair brainstorm stuff. My tokens are just going to be worse than your tokens, kind of. Yeah, I'm just going to play Volk. There is a possibility that my opponent is a blue shops deck. I haven't seen all that much of their deck, generally speaking. Alright, they're topping. Alright, are we resolving? Force pitching Tide Walk. Okay, they are blue shops. I force back. They have 1 card left. So this is just the Sphinx here. And we kind of hope this is good enough. I wasn't expecting my opponent to be blue shops. My opponent could sacrifice Lotus to make another token here. Mishra's Workshop, notably only is mana to cast artifact spells. Alright, so there's Manifold Key for the Grim Monolith synergies. I really wish I just had Bolas's Citadel right now rather than the Sphinx, but here we are. That is fine. They can do nonsense with top, where they draw a card with top, Manifold Key, untap it. Okay. So, my opponent now has protection from everything until their next turn. And we're definitely noticing the power gap between Sphinx of the Steel Wind and Bolas's Citadel right now. Yeah, so with my opponent drawing a bunch of extra cards with the 1 ring here, Construct has gotten bigger than my Sphinx. Like, I don't end up taking all that much damage, but it's still not great for me. So, like, this is effectively only 2 damage, right? Like, I take 8, gain 6 back. That is okay at the end of the day. That is not what I want to see. I can go ahead and get in for 6 points of damage here, undo what my opponent did. Outright. I forgot about the protection from the One Ring. My opponent loses 2. That actually means that I might have to just chump block this construct this turn. That's horrifying. Well, we said to be on the lookout for this, and seeing it in play, absolutely right. Yeah, I now have to chump block with my Sphinx on this construct token. I needed Bolas's Citadel, but I didn't know whether my opponent was like aggro shops or traditional shops, and I ended up making the wrong decision. Well, I guess this isn't traditional shops, right? This is kind of its own thing now. Yeah, so my opponent just activates, so this is a chump block with my Sphinx of the Steel Wind. Is just the ultimate feel bad. Oh my gosh, that is a paradoxical outcome. So my opponent got to draw a gajillion cards and put all that stuff back in their hand. I'm going to go ahead and skip to them having played out all of these things again. Okay, here's the first interesting thing my opponent has done that we haven't seen yet. They are playing a Coveted Jewel, which taps for 3 mana, and when it enters the battlefield, they get to draw 3 cards. It's something that we're allowed to take back with a creature, but I don't think there's going to be a takesy-backsies. So we now have a Phyrexian Metamorph entering as another Coveted Jewel to allow my opponent to continue to go off. We now have a Karn the Great Creator hitting play. Are we just in like Mycosynth Lattice territory, or do you have something else cool to do? Alright, we are in Mycosynth Lattice territory. And with that combo assembled, I can't cast any more spells here. I don't get to tap these for mana anymore. I am, I think, comfortable conceding here. I've seen the writing on the wall. So in this matchup, I don't want this. I want my Bolas's Citadel back. My opponent has some blue cards that I can consider stopping with some counter spells. But a lot of the... I want this second Pithing Needle for the One Ring and to a lesser extent Karn. The Sheoldred and Bowmaster stuff is going to be better than I suspected they would be. I guess Hullbreachers as well. Just cut the Yogg-Will. Like, it's really powerful, but I don't see it as the most necessary thing in the world. This is a weird one. Like, I can play top, and I have a Hurkyl's Recall to just send a bunch of stuff back to my opponent's hand, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything broken with this hand. So I think I'm going to try to do something broken. I don't feel like this deck mulligans super well. I feel like I need a little bit more mana. This is rough. So this does not make black mana for Orcish Bowmasters, but this is a 5-card hand, so I'm probably keeping it at this point. I haven't been in love with Urza Saga in this deck. Do I still get to Force of Will? Might not get to Force of Will after going down to 5 cards. I pitch like Sheoldred and Force, and then keep 2 different things that strongly impact my opponent's game. I think that's where we're at. I pay the mana. Also, do I play Urza Saga? I'm not sure which line I'm playing yet, so I'm going to pay the life. My opponent's on 6 cards to my 5. I have a Tinker. Workshop Key, Monolith, untap. Gross. Force of Will is also there. Just chilling. I think I get Urza Saga going. Yeah, my opponent's hand is much, much stronger than mine. Alright, so there's Monolith, Key, so they can go 3, untap. Oh, that was their draw as well. We've got 3, untap, 4 for the ring. They still have Force of Will backup through all of this. They get to start drawing cards. They also have Manifold Key to untap that. That is going to be a very strong card engine. I've got Urza Saga. I can Pithing Needle it in a couple of turns, but the fact that my mana is not allowing me to cast Bowmasters here is a pretty big problem. Like, I have 3 different cards in hand that all stop the current problem over there. but no ability to mess around and cast anything. Like maybe my hands are on the lower side of variance, or maybe like the mana base is just not great. Alright. So much burden. But it just like doesn't matter. Because I will be dead before this kills them, even at a lightning bolt worth of damage a turn or more. Like the Urza Saga constructs alone that they make will do me in, I think. Okay, I have gotten priority back. So looks like I get to go to my next turn. Another Urza Saga. I know my opponent has Force of Will, which means that I can't just jam Tinker. I have 5 total mana this turn. If I float a mana, which I will. This has to be Lotus, I think, rather than Pithing Needle. And then I attempt both Bowmasters and Hullbreacher. If I Pithing Needle this, I still just lose to this, so I think I have to try to do something else. So make a new land drop as well. This unfortunately does get rid of my artifact that I have. Alright, Bowmasters is in play. And this is an awkward follow-up to that exact play, but we're doing it. Alright, both are in play. My opponent loses some life. Again, though, this Urza Saga probably just beats me. If I can stay healthy, I can maybe pivot into Tinker at some point. My opponent did not fire off this Force of Will, meaning they just think they can beat the stuff that I have going on now. Yep, no, that's fair. Oh. Time Vault Key, infinite turns, and they got rid of their One Ring that was killing them. Yes, I accept my fate here. GG's. Alright, we're paired against the same opponent from round 1 here. I have a decent amount of fast mana. I am going to keep this. I have preemptively given my opponent a poke, like, hey, can you try to play faster? Because they basically timed themselves out in like 9 turns of magic total or something like that. Alright. So I have a choice between Hullbreacher and Narset on turn 1. This is always Underground Sea. Hullbreacher dodges like Force of Negation in particular, I guess. I am going to just lead on the Hullbreacher here, I think. If one of these two resolves, I think I want it to be the Narset, because the Narset also draws me cards. Alright, there's a Force pitching an Ancestral, though. Okay. Top is fine. I intend on playing Narset on my own turn. Academy's great there. And Pithing Needle is fine. They're unfortunately probably going to name this blind. Oh, Urza Saga instead. Sure. Tolarian Academy. I like that. I think I like that a lot. So let's Time Vault. Alright, it's in play. Now this taps for enough mana on its own to cast a Narset. Immediately minus this Timetwister and Mental Misstep. I will take the Timetwister. And we can do that next turn. I can potentially Vamp Tutor for a piece of protection to do Narset Timetwister to get rid of my opponent's remaining cards. I'm going to go ahead and set a stop in my upkeep. See what my opponent's got going on. Just a fetch. No. So what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They potentially have hardcast Force of Will. I'm going to go ahead and Vamp Tutor here. Flusterstorm, probably my best bet here. Oh, let's go Timetwister with Flusterstorm available. You may top. So if they have Fluster, they can draw that with top. And they have a bunch of extra mana from Tolarian Academy, so I think I just Fluster their Vamp Tutor. It's awkward if their last card in hand is the Fluster, though. Alright, so our stack clears. And they get 1 card from all of that. I will go ahead and Narset minus now. Mana Crypt. Mana Crypt is cool. I can cast that and then leave up Flusterstorm and Hullbreacher, while also going and playing out a top. Admittedly, though, Flusterstorm's not at its best right now versus a Tolarian Academy. And then we'll finish off with top. All right, they're going to do a little look-see-doozle end of turn. That's fine. So this one I can counter, right? Just Flusterstorm, cast 2 other spells. Flusterstorm rises again. And then they'll just use some mana to top. Or still just have the ability to Sensei's top for a Force of Will if I find myself in a desperate situation. Yeah, that's fine. I am not the matchup that card is for. End of turn, I'll do a look of my own. Oh, those are cards. Yeah. I don't really have black right now. Okay. We'll be taking all of those. Tails never fails. See, I told you. Really want another black mana for Sheoldred. So we'll start with an Ancestral targeting me. Gets me a Time Walk. I'm not going to play another artifact this turn. I think I can be a little sloppy in terms of sequencing here and not care too much about how things go. Ooh, does my opponent like have a Force of Will on top or something? Or no, it wouldn't be Force of Will. So each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. Notable text there. Which is different from Hullbreacher's text. Alright, then my opponent has had enough. We're about to put a ton of power in play and then Time Walk and just kill my opponent in a couple of swings, even if Sheoldred doesn't get involved. I also just am going to have infinite turns as well. So what do I want during sideboarding here? A couple more counter spells, probably. Played against this opponent before. I don't really know exactly how to sideboard here. I think I'm going to play a few generic counter spells and not play the more narrow mental misstep, despite the fact that it's insane versus ancestral specifically. I think I'll call that good. The blue decks are often kind of built to have game 1s versus each other anyway. Your sideboards tend to be for shops and graveyard-based decks very heavily in Vintage. I'm going to be keeping this hand. Not the most unfair thing in the world, but it is turn 1 Bowmasters if I want it. While also having a Force of Will for something broken my opponent can do. Exhibit A. Repeal was also something I maybe should have sideboarded out. Force of Negation. Sure. Probably just the Narset. I think that's the plan. Let's see if it resolves. What did my opponent pitch there? They pitched a Chain of Vapor. That is a wheel. Cannot cast that wheel next turn. But it is a wheel. Still taking that? No, I think I'm gonna settle in for a longer game and just take the Fluster. Not play top this turn. Alright, there's a land drop from my opponent. Soul Ring occurs. Top happens. Again, part of that is shut off by Narset. Since my opponent just played a Soul Ring, I am comfortable using my Flusterstorm while I can still use the Flusterstorm, because my opponent is going to get much better at just paying for that. Alright, we've made it back to my turn. I'm starting here for sure. A Timetwister. I'll be taking that. We'll make a regular old land drop this turn. Is playing Bowmasters better than playing top? If Narset were to leave play for any reason, I would like to have Bowmasters. But this contributes an artifact count for Tolarian Academy, so I think that gets the nod here. I probably preemptively fetch to just get my colors. Alright, there we go. We're a little bit shields down this turn, but this is in play as a starting point, which is pretty good for us. My opponent is making some moves here. That is a 1 ring. I do have to remember that they will have protection from everything for 1 turn. Okay, so Manifold Key goes on bottom here. And then I will put Force of Will on top of my library so that I have that after Timetwister, but can draw it if I need to. I guess my opponent also only has one card. I don't necessarily have to do the Narset Timetwister thing. Alright, my opponent sat and thought for a while. Now, they can draw some cards with this. So it may just be better for me to play Orcish Bowmasters if they tap this in this turn cycle. Or even Hullbreacher. And then Timetwister the following turn. Again, Narset's warning is each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. Okay, so they're going to do a look with top. Okay, yeah, this was something that I was anticipating. I think I will go ahead and go Hullbreacher here. They're going to tap top to draw a card. They're fetching away their top. A mana drain. Would I like to Force of Will this? Feels like yes. Oh, that pitches my Timetwister. Since I cast the Hullbreacher. Is that fine? That's probably fine. Like, I can beat my opponent to death with embarrassing creatures while they bleed themselves to death with the One Ring and their Mana Crypt. I think that is a legitimate path to victory. Like, they are at 14 now after losing that flip. Yeah, that's good enough for a concession. So I think I misplayed in that final turn cycle, though. So instead of Hullbreacher getting greedy and stopping the draw, I'm maybe supposed to play Orcish Bowmasters so that I have Force of Will pitching Hullbreacher available rather than pitching Timetwister. Intricate format, vintage. All right, I have kept my opening hand here. The plan is just turn 1 Time Walk, followed by turn 2 Hullbreacher, and hope that that's good. Let's see if it is. All right, we got the Time Walk off. And then a lot of how good the rest of this is dependent on whether or not my opponent is a blue deck or not. So I think I am just going to sorcery speed this Hullbreacher and not give my opponent the chance to like cast an Ancestral or something in response to me casting this Hullbreacher, because I always want to do it in this first turn cycle, I think. The remainder of it's a cantrip that gets around Hullbreacher. How dare you? This is also probably a bad sign that my Hullbreacher is not going to be particularly strong. Rip. So we have the wrong sort of hand for this matchup in all likelihood. Well, another turn from now I can take an extra turn. But this is not how I was hoping this game would develop. We're probably playing against some sort of green-white Hate Bears initiative-y style deck list. Kind of lucked out on my land drop choice here. Oh, that actually stops Yogwill into Time Walk. Annoying. Guess I'll fetch now. You only get one Brainstorm and one Ponder in this format, so you don't necessarily have to. You don't necessarily have to go and save your fetch lands. Alright. Would I make this trade so that I can take an extra turn? I think so, although this would mean drawing a wheel would be worse. Alright, let's battle. Alright, my opponent does not accept that trade. We are passing with Force of Will available, which is a little awkward because of Cavern. Let's just yield to that. I'm at 15. No! So now I can't cast future Force of Wills as of right now. Hullbreacher can't attack anymore either. Take that, though. We will certainly take that. So now we at least get 2 damage a turn cycle. I have Force of Will with Thalia attacks available for if my opponent casts a non-human. This is not my ideal counter target, but I might not have many chances to just use this spell. So I am going to go ahead and fire this off. Like, a lot of the things that I'm scared of are humans from my opponent's deck here. I'm down to 11. Saga is fine. We will be battling with Sheoldred. Ooh. I'm just straight up opting to gain 4 life there. Urza Saga enters tapped. Awkward. Archon of Emeria doing a lot of work versus this Yawgmoth's Will here. Notably, if I had held Force of Will, I wouldn't have been able to cast it anymore. Yep. My opponent can make a very big booty Archon. They might have to hold it back. This is a 6-point burn spell if I do it targeting my opponent. I'm not gonna get cute here. What? Alright, attack with Sheoldred. My opponent goes to 6. So they're down to 4. Fuck, I countered this in hopes of that exact thing not really happening. That is a beating. New Thalia comes down. I take 5. Caracas is incredibly good against me. I might end up losing this one. There's a way to win. I need to top deck a key, but there's a way to win. So we'll throw that in play as my 1 spell. I guess I need to naked draw key though, right? I can't trip into it. Alright, so there's a counter on it, plus an attack for 6 total damage. I am at 4. Nope. I believe I am on no outs. Yeah, especially with Thalia in play. I just shouldn't show my opponent this card. Yeah, that draw of Caracas saved my opponent. So I am more interested in these as tinker targets. Dismembers are pretty reasonable. Tabernacle is playable. 5 cards that I can be thinking about. Misstep is not at its best. Flusterstorm is not at its best. Do I care about Pithing Needle on Caracas? I'm thinking about cutting Needle. I'm thinking about cutting Merchant Scroll, just for being slow against like Thalia attacks and such. Bowmasters will frequently be quite good. Also thinking about cutting Yawg's Will for reasons like we just saw between Thalia attacks and Archon. Very comfortable cutting these two. I think that gives me enough slots, right? That's 60. I think that's reasonable. Oh, fuck. I don't want Bolas's Citadel. If I am boarding in 2 other Tinker threats. So what does that mean? I don't really want to play 2 Needles. Maybe I am just keeping Merchant Scroll for the times that it does work. They don't like a lot of the other stuff. Mana problems. Has to be a mulligan. So if I keep this hand, it pitches Portal to Phyrexia and just plays a turn 2 Wheel of Fortune to refresh. Is that more exciting than a mulligan to 5? The issue is that like my opponent could dump a bunch of artifact mana on board and then I just refuel them. I think I can do better than this. This is also a turn 2 Wheel of Fortune hand. On 5, I probably accept this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I keep 1 other. That means it's not Force of Will plus blue card. I could pitch top and Force of Will and try to do Hullbreacher plus Wheel of Fortune, and that is the more broken thing that I am capable of doing. I think I accept that. So for Archon purposes, I probably play out my lands like this, although that's awkward versus Wasteland in particular. Ooh, my opponent can do powerful things here. I was hoping to get another turn before they got to do, an Archon or whatever. Yep. Taking out that red source is actually surprisingly strong here. I don't have access to red mana now. Alright. We are on mono 3 drops here. We have our win condition in play, though. Don't you worry. So we are in Seasoned Dungeoneer and Friends territory now at 4 mana. We are also in double 2-drop territory. Oh. Are we Cauldra-ing in this format? We are. Scary. If I draw a red land, dang it. Anyway, if I drew a red land, I could just wheel and make my opponent discard that Cauldra. This thing flips. I have no say in that. I think I just lost to mulliganing to 5 here. And my opponent being able to disrupt my mana. So like, what, I'm eating 8 damage this turn? I eat 9 the following turn. I think if I don't top deck a red land, I'm basically just dead. Yeah, I can kill this, do some chump blocks, but I think we're donezo here. Like, I kept a relatively strong hand and playing out the Mox so that I dodge like Archon and Thalia attacks played into Outland Liberator instead. GG's. Maybe I shouldn't be revealing Chancellor of the NX. Wow. Maybe I shouldn't be keeping these Time Walk hands that look like this. They have not felt all that great. Here I will just go ahead and clear the Chancellor trigger and call it a turn. I'm not sure if my opponent's playing a combo deck or if this is just going to be another Hate Bears deck that's just playing this to help bridge the gap to their cards. Really awkward for me if I have to Force of Will something. I don't think I go after that, but it is a little tempting. Same. Old. This is 5 mana. They've cracked for white. It is a Seasoned Dungeoneer. We're going to kind of hope that they are all in on that card. I will counter that. I know at least one of their cards in hand is a blank. They still haven't made a land drop, so a secondary thing could be coming. This jerk is back again. That's a great draw. I will be going down this Urza Saga route and hoping that is good enough to win the game. My opponent is on Ancient Tomb and Mana Crypt. Like, they are going to do a lot of self-damage, but my Urza Saga tokens are currently smallish. Counterspell's off. Oh, I don't think I beat that second Season Dungeoneer. So I take 2 this turn, 7 the next turn. I'm dead the following turn. So I need to draw something quite good. Narset. Let's try to sculpt a way out of this rather than do Urza Saga stuff, because the Urza Saga tokens can't block this successfully. I was supposed to tap Urza Saga and leave this up in case I find Vamp Tutor. Alright. That was right, Archon. Yep. So I may get a little bit of time here. Mana Crypt does deal them damage. I will be dead before them, though. I'm sort of surprised. I feel like you put the counters on Archon so you can more cleanly split the damage between Narset and my personal life total. If they just have a Luminarch Aspirant or something in hand that's going to add 1 counter to Archon, though, like, ignore what I said. A new Archon, sure. Alright. Okay, they are just fully ignoring Narset and going for my face. I guess with second Archon, that's fine. I can't do something like removal spell into Time Walk or whatever. Hullbreacher. I don't know how I win this. No, I do. It's fine Time Vault with Narset. That's my out. Alright, Narset baby, let's go. F. So I get to cast 1 spell. Can't think of any outs from this position. I can repeal for 2 mana, which is not enough to do anything here. Yeah, I am dead. This does not feel like a matchup that I super want to play. I'll owe things that I can be considering. So my Colossus Citadel goes out. Repeal is flexible, but very slow. I don't like flusters. I don't like mental misstep for the most part. I've got 6 cards that I'm looking at. I can keep 1 Pithing Needle for some fringe scenarios. I don't think it's super good, though. I might cut it. Merchant Scroll is slow. Yogg's Will is awkward against the various Hate Bears. So assuming I board all of this in, this is 61. I probably cut 1 of Repeal, Merchant Scroll, Gataxian Probe. One of those do I actually want to do here? I think it's so hard for me to cast a Merchant Scroll and then an Ancestral most of the time because of assorted Hate Bears that are happening. Turn 1, Vamp Tutor for something. Turn 2, Bowmasters. Turn 3, Wheel. Bowmaster triggers, wipe the board. It's a keep. There's some degree of awkwardness associated with said keep, but whatever. Oh, this is actually just better than I thought, right? So assuming no hate bear from my opponent on turn 1, I can Vamp Tutor for Lotus. Have 5 mana on turn 2 for Bowmasters and Wheel. That is quite good. Alright, do your thing. There's a Lauren under there. That slows me down a lot. Do I Vamp Tutor for a Dismember to kill that thing? Maybe. I'm unhappy about this card existing. It just making my lands enter tapped is so incredibly brutal. Tabernacle doesn't kill all their stuff here. What if I just take Mana Crypt as my card that I put on top? Fetch a tapped red source on my turn. Play Bowmasters on their turn off Mana Crypt. And then wheel with Bowmasters. That's fine. I think I get Urza Saga going here. No, I'm a fucking idiot. I just talked about how I needed the red mana. God damn it. Started thinking about Lotus for if things went wrong. Welcome to the life of recording videos where you talk through the right play and then don't make it because you come up with some fringe scenario that could happen and you do a dumb. Like, I almost certainly lose the game for that mistake. Alright, I'm at 15. Play an X1 creature for me, please. Gross. I will cast this in response. This is going to make this cast 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I wouldn't have been able to wheel anyway, given that this is about to happen. So I'm going on the Make Urza Saga Construct tokens plan in the short term. I guess depending on their hand, they could just name Urza Saga as well. No, you know what? Now that I'm thinking through it more, the Urza Saga might actually have been the right line, because the land that I get the following turn from Misty Rainforest also enters tapped. Okay, they are going to name Wheel of Fortune here. Sort of unsurprisingly. Draw Timetwister, baby. Tails never fails. Except when it does. Time Walk. I will just be casting that. That is better than the other things that I can do here by a lot, because it just lets Urza Saga tick up. So cast Time Walk. So Wheel of Fortune costs 5. Tails never fails. I should stop here. No, I don't have to. Lost the flip again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. I am going to go ahead and just float mana here, though. Lotus. 1, 2, 3. This does need to be red. 4, 5. Wheel of Fortune. Triggers. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Always yield. I now get to cast things again. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana available. That means I'm 1 short of Demonic Tutor for a 3-drop. That's probably fine, though. Cast a Ponder, a Time Vault, and a Hullbreacher. Not interested in this stuff. Alright, so make a new land drop. Cast a Soul Ring with that floating mana. Fetch Underground Sea. Cast Orcish Bowmasters. Target you, bring you to 13. Cast a Pithing Needle. I don't even know what to name here. Just like a wasteland. This is 10 damage with Force of Will backup and a Demonic Tutor based kill next turn. This is pretty gross. Yep. Now my opponent does have a new random set of 7 cards, so they can potentially do something rather silly. That card doesn't matter. Like I can lose the Soul Ring. That's awkward. If I don't Force of Will that, I don't get to Force of Will this turn, probably. Also just protects my Demonic Tutor. Getting to do broken things. My opponent might have one more card to play here. It's just like really awkward for them to tap that Ancient Tomb, because bodies. Tails never fails. Okay, it's been heads 3 times in a row. Tails is supposed to never fail. So let's go ahead and Demonic Tutor. You'll find a Timetwister. I will cast Timetwister, and I will have a couple of Orcish Bowmaster triggers. One at Lauren. The remainder can go at my opponent. Alright, good stuff. We're going to get to Wheel as well. Delicious. When I'm on the play, I can start thinking about things like Force of Negation and Mindbreak Trap to help get me into the mid game. For example, something like Gataxian Probe becomes a lot worse on the draw. Sheoldred's a little slow on the draw. The thing is that like after turn 1, Mindbreak Trap doesn't really do much. It's a awkward counterspell that I can cast for 4 mana that does get around Cavern of Souls. That's something. Go get Probe out on the draw for the Mindbreak Trap, and then see if there's something else that I would like for Force of Negation. Could get rid of Opposition Agent. It's pretty slow on the draw and probably low-ish impact anyway. This is an awkward hand. With an artifact, this is incredibly strong. I think I keep this. So I have Force of Will, pitching Hullbreacher for something super relevant. Otherwise, I get to fetch, hopefully ahead of an Archon. Any artifact gives me Tinker, probably for the Phyrexian Whoozy What's It. Chancellor of the Annex is annoying if I would need to Force of Will on turn 1. Yeah. See how bad it is. I'm okay if it's like an initiative creature. It's scarier for me if it's a hate bear. Yeah. So like I would Force of Will this, but Chancellor. I'll dismember that instead. Alright, take your planes. Am I using Lotus to cast Dismember? How am I clearing the Chancellor trigger? Am I not clearing the Chancellor trigger to dismember immediately? So I always fetch ahead of Archon here, I think. Grab an Underground Sea. Cast Black Lotus. Pay for it with Sea. And then I think I have a variable turn depending on which side my opponent goes down. I think if they go down the Forge side, I have to dismember this so I don't take a gajillion points of damage. And if they go down the Scry side, I flash in Hullbreacher at end of turn to attack, take the initiative, and then do this. Yeah, but as soon as this goes to a 6/6, I can't remove it with Dismember anymore, which I think results in me losing the game. That Chancellor has been such a pain in the butt. Oddly, I wonder if I was supposed to Force of Will pitch Tinker to clear the Chancellor trigger to have a better chance at quickly taking the initiative. I didn't strongly consider that line at the time, but I should have. Just like such terrible value. I'm probably going to stop something essential this turn. Damn. I need that color as well. Say la vie. I think I'm good as long as I spike a fetch land or like a Mox Jet. Like if I can get Bowmasters down before Archives happens, it's very good for me. Alright, we're chilling then. Oh, this is a very scary brainstorm. Like, this could be game winning or game losing very easily. Can't ponder this turn. Ponder next turn. Get to shuffle one of these away. Probably secondary Bowmaster. I'll get Urza Saga ticking up now. Yeah, this single mana knocked me just completely off of the course of where I needed to be in this game. And then, like, I fetched to play around Archon and got punished by Wasteland instead. Yes. I have to Force of Will that I can't lose this land drop. Think pitching Hullbreacher. Tinker is a way to potentially steal this game back once I stabilize a little bit later. Alright, so Urza Saga ticks up. I have to ponder. Manifold Key turns Tolarian Academy into a real land. And that, in theory, always gives me Tinker next turn. I'm probably not happy about that. Like, this is not my ideal, but it feels like this is happening. And we'll just see how bad Throne of the Dead 3 is. Well, my opponent's going to have some choices. It might just take a big booty Chancellor. Yep. I think this is going to be okay. I at least hope it is. Alright. So, load a mana. Probably pick up Soul Ring here. Is Jet fine? Like, is Mox Jet fine? We get that Tellurian Academy taps for 2. We'll tap for 1 in the not too distant future. Raw mana count might matter more than the black mana in the short term. No, I think the black mana matters. I do need to take back the initiative at some point. Alright. 1, 2, 3. Cast Tinker. Sacrificing Manifold Key. Paying the 1. Oh, fuck. I just had infinite turns there as well, didn't I? Yeah, I just had infinite turns. I think this is going to end up leading to a win as well, but I had a win immediately instead of a win later. Which is not the way that I should have played this, because if my opponent has another Lauren, this becomes incredibly awkward. So now they'll get another basic land out of their deck. Okay, Wasteland's annoying. I guess Portal to Phyrexia also ends up taking the initiative. Yeah, but I just had a deterministic win. Okay, sure. You Forge, go up to a 5/6. Yeah, that's awkward, because I was about to get a Seasoned Dungeoneer to take that. I mean, I guess this gives me an extra land drop. I'll grab an island. I need to find a way to kill this before it kills me. Which probably means playing Narset here. Over Bowmasters. A key is in my graveyard. A key is in my graveyard, so Time Vault isn't great. Repeal's not a bad hit, though. Kind of. Solitude. It seems like they could have waited until their turn to do that, in case they just, like, want to hard cast that. What did they pitch to do that? Okay, yeah. We'll see if they attack me or go for Narset. Alright, they are going at me, finding Ancient Tomb. By Narset. I now get to Portal to Phyrexia, their Solitude. I have the initiative right now. Let's stack that initiative trigger on bottom. Portal to Phyrexia, Solitude. Solitude, your Dungeoneer. Venture to Forge. Forge up Solitude. Tabernacle is interesting. I will play Urza's Saga. I have Orcish Bowmasters and Repeal that I'm holding up. I might actually be okay. I might have salvaged this game. Another Solitude. 1, 2, 3. I have 4 mana. Yes. This is still fine. I can answer Solitude with Orcish Bowmasters by pinging and then blocking. And then once their Solitude is in graveyard, I've got other ways to use that. I also just have Urza Saga tokens coming in the not too distant future. Alright. Ping Solitude. I think this is a mistake. I think you are supposed to wait until after I block to potentially get a blowout. Unless you just have 2 of them. They did not have 2 of them. Alright, so I trade with Solitude. Holding the initiative. I'm gonna just keep holding Repeal here. Portal to Phyrexia will get back a large body. I'm up to 22 life now. I will trap my opponent. For 5. Get Chancellor. Thanks to the Steel Wind. I don't think I'm going to cast that one. I just intend on making an Urza Saga token in this turn cycle. Another land drop. Alright, I punted this game, but hopefully I have swung this back now. Portal to Phyrexia can get Lauren here, which can be awkward because of Karakas. Lauren will blow up a Pearl. Vamp Tutor. Do I have anything that just wins me the game effectively? Because I can Vamp Tutor and repeal a Sapphire and have 3 mana. I don't have a wheel effect. Probably not. I'll probably just hold this. Have that flexibility. Pithing Needle Caracas so Lauren can't go to their side is reasonable. So I can hold up Vamp Tutor. I can just do that in my upkeep though. Nope. What I actually want to do is play Soul Ring, so I hit for 1 more point of damage this turn. Crash in for 11. My opponent is at 4. I have Vamp Tutor, Throne of the Dead 3, a billion bodies. I messed up this game, but I recovered. So we get some play points back. We go 2-3 in this league, which I wouldn't say I'm happy with, but is a fine result. All right, we've reached the end of the league here. The deck kind of gets a shaky thumbs up from me. I overall like the deck construction, but I hate the mana base. Like, 4 Urza's Saga here is just so exceptionally greedy in terms of actually casting spells in your 3-color deck. Like, I know we're close to a blue-black deck, but especially since, like, Tolarian Academy requires some other things to go right. I feel like if I were going to play this again, I would end up either adding a land or 2 or subtracting an Urza Saga or 2. Like, the Urza Saga gives you those Time Vault hands, but I kind of felt like Urza Saga's job was to be a Black Lotus with Suspend, rather than like something that makes constructs, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, the list came from Justin Ganari, who is a very, very, very good and active Vintage player. But as an outsider, I didn't like how many colorless lands there were in the deck. I like very much felt that. Merchant Scroll didn't feel great to me, but like, it is a way to find Ancestral and draw 3 cards for 3 mana in a fair blue matchup where you need to grind things out is still very good if that does resolve. So I can't really criticize too much of the deck building here. Like, I like that, even though I don't know that I used this card actively, I liked that we had some generic catch-all answers. And generally speaking, I felt like the stuff that I had access to in the sideboard was reasonable. Yeah, I think that's mostly what I have to say. If you end up needing to buy any cards for your sweet vintage deck in paper, remember Cool Stuff Inc. is a great place to do that, and promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order. Folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day. If you have any thoughts about vintage right now, especially like the One Ring in shops, kind of how that's been performing for you, I would love to read that down in the comments below. All right, see ya.